If you want to see the language of the blessing, it's on page 997 in the Siddur. That'll be important just to kind of figure out what the blessing is actually saying. This blessing said over items that are not from the 5 grains, nothing like mizonot, they have its own blessing. Bread has its own blessing afterwards. Examples of foods that are not in that category, not the 7 species also. So foods, meat, chicken, fish, any dairy or egg product, fruits, vegetables, except for the 7 species, beans, soya, rice product, any cake, cookie, cereal, it's made from corn flour as well. For all mushrooms, herbs, kasha, all these, afterwards you make the blessing. If you eat a certain amount, you make the blessing, Borei, Nefashot, rabot, v'chesronan, kol ma shebarata, l'chayot ben hashchai, bruch, cheolamim. That's the blessing on the bottom of page 997. Also, you make this blessing for beverages. So if you have any juice other than grape juice, water, beer, alcohol, any alcoholic beverage that you drink a certain a certain amount of within 6 minutes, you need at least 2 shot glasses of it. If you have enough of that, you drink it within 6 minutes, then you should make this bracha. There's a discussion around hot drinks. Because you kind of sip them, you don't drink them in a continuous way. So many say you don't make the bracha after that unless it's cooled down enough that you can drink it within that amount of time, kind of like a real good gulp, 2 good gulps of that. So that's a little bit on what you make the bracha on. But I want to talk just about the bracha itself. What are we saying when you make the bracha? And it's a little bit on the history of the bracha. So interesting, the Gemara says they didn't used to say this bracha all the time. There are some rabbis say you don't say it on vegetables after you eat vegetables. Some say you do it on vegetables, but you don't do it on water. It turns out that the halacha is Rav Ashi says we say it after everything: vegetables, water, everything that's not included in things you make mizonos or hamotzi for. Another thing that's interesting is that there's a view in the Jerusalem Talmud that Rabbi Tarfon used to make this bracha before he ate, before he drank water. Hashotem ma'im l'tzmo, some omer shakoni abivar Rabbi Tarfon omer borei nefashot rabot v'chesronan. Seems to be that they made it before, but the practical halacha is you make it after. What's the bracha? What is the bracha? So here's the language: Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam borei nefashot rabot v'chesronan. So that means who creates the many forms of life and their needs. For all you have created to sustain the life of all that lives, blessed be He, giver of life to the world. It's kind of not very clear. The language isn't very clear. So I'll just, in my head, what's the clearest way to understand this is like this. Very simple. God created a lot of individuals, many forms of life with needs. We have needs. We're hungry, we're thirsty. And we thank God for fulfilling those needs. For all you've created to sustain the life of all that lives, blessed be He, giver of life to the world. You've created us with lackings. That's the first part. We're not thanking God for that yet. We're thanking God for fulfilling those lacks, those needs, with the second part of the bracha. For all you have created to sustain the life of all that lives, thank you, Hashem. Blessed are you who gives life to all the world. So that seems to be the simple reading of that. There's other readings of that, but I think that's the most straightforward one. I'll just share with you one mystical one that I think actually kind of fits somewhat into the words, but it's a little out there, but I'll share that with you. It says, this is based on the Arizal. He says, Borei Nefashot rabot v'chesronan. God creates souls with lackings, with lacks. And if a soul goes to the next world and they're lacking something, so according to many mystical texts, they come back to this world. They're reincarnated. How can they be reincarnated to be elevated and kind of be corrected? Sometimes they're reincarnated into food items and drinks. So if you're eating a turkey on Thanksgiving, you may be eating some tzaddik from a different, or maybe it wasn't a tzaddik, so they're back. But actually, that is an argument against vegetarianism, that you can't elevate the souls in the meat, according to mystical texts. But so the language goes like this: God created all these individuals with their lackings. Okay. They have lackings. So what does He have to do? On everything you created, all these food and drink items that you created to give life, to give life to all these nefashot, all these souls that were lacking, to give life to them through these food, we bless God for that. and we say, Baruch Elamik, blessed are you who gives life to all the world. You give life to these people who had lackings from the previous life, and now they're back in this world, and we elevate them, so we thank God for that. It kind of fits into the language, actually, a little bit. All right, you might not have that intention, but the simple intention should be, if you eat the food items within 6 minutes, a certain amount, ideally you should say that bracha. It's good to memorize it. And the basic idea is that we're thanking God for we're lacking, and Hashem provided what we need to fill that lack.